So we now go on to our segment, Microbrands Unscripted. So this one was actually suggested by What You Want, and he suggested a few brands for me to look into and see what I think about these so-called brands. Actually, there's more than three, but I thinned them out into just three watch brands: Laurier, Helm, and Vesuviate. So let's begin with Laurier. Laurier is watch brand or a micro brand that has a little bit of a good track record, with it seems, and many of you have been familiar with it. And we've seen multiple collections already from this micro brand, and they specialize on vintage styling watches. And I love their smaller profiles. Most of them, yeah, because they're vintage style. Not only do they look old school, but they also have that old school proportions. And from what I hear, they have some really good quality as well. And so when it comes to vintage styling, it's going to be fitting my wrist almost perfectly, because my wrist has been the somewhat the average wrist back in the time when they had like 38 as their maximum diameter. But nowadays there's a trend of bigger watches, but then it's starting to trend down again. And Laurier is one of those watches that are at the forefront of that. However, there are some issues with Laurier and their at least for me, because the more appealing ones that I like, the have a lot more contrast and a bit more actually reserved, even though they have a lot of contrast, but they're a lot more reserved in their styling. And those are the ones that are limited edition. And when those are, I think they know pretty much what people would be asking for. So they put those on the or special edition watches so that they can um, generate the hype and have them sell out really quickly. But those that are really generic looking are the remnants of their collection. I think they should have some leaders in there, some go-to pieces and collections and designs, so that they could be a little bit more recognized. Because right now the brand identity is not as solid or as well put up as many would see. Like the next watch brand that I'm going to talk about, which is Helm. Helm has a really distinct identity to it. It's really rugged and angular watches, bulky watches, similar to what Zelos is trying to offer, but here more on the geometry of their watches. The watch that they offer are massive hunks of steel that are really well spec'd, and that's the thing about this. It seems that they are all specking and regulating these watches to the point that it's harder for them to keep up with demand. And that's what Helm is getting known for now, for their ingrown wait list. I think this is a good and bad thing, because it becomes a sort of their signature, and it has become a sort of like a mini Rolex appeal to it, without the pitfalls of spending thousands of dollars on a helm. But for a watch that typically retails at 300, 400, or $500, it's pretty hard to get. So if you're in a wait list and you've been called, hey, your watch is ready, so be ready to fork out your money. So it's kind of like a taste of the waitlist game from Rolex. I don't know. To me, that's actually pretty good. It's part of another dynamic that you have to another hoop to jump over, or another hurdle to jump over in order for you to get your helm. It makes it more satisfying when you actually get one. But I understand, or I imagine that many people would not like that, even though helms watches are actually pretty good looking and very angular. And finally, Vesuviate. Vesuviate is another Asian brand that many people are actually really fond of. I see that there's a lot of following with the Vesuviate, and they're really um, Oriental themed watches. Well, it's not overly Oriental like Wise or some other Indonesian brands, or this one is Singapore, but you do see some Sanskrit influences in there, which is tastefully done as well. But you can't avoid it either. You could readily see it, even specifically with their watch logo. So with their brand logo. So that is something that may not be for everybody. To me, it's okay. I mean, like I could see it, even though of course I'm Asian, but I have some Western taste. So even to me, I'm okay with that. But I think their best collection is probably the Ativo, because this one is has that Glasuta 70s profile, and which is really really great. And now you could have that in a micro brand, and you can spend that good money on a quality brand that I could see also. The that cushion case is really really well finished according to many of you, and also from the videos that I've seen. The only thing about that, the only criticism is sometimes they tend to have some misproportions. I know there's no golden rule, even though people are showing that golden ratio that's a basis for beauty. That's not always the case. Okay, so there are certain things that escape that kind of design language or design pattern. But for Vesuviate, there are certain things that their proportions are a little bit off. Some there's so much negative spacing, and some there's so much clutter. So it's all over the place from collection to collection. I imagine that they have one designer only, but I guess they're trying to see also what is possible production wise. So out of the three, I think I'm more of a Laurier fan. So that's probably the one that I'm going to put my money on, especially that GMT that they have. That's really really nice. Um, I have a lot of really rugged watches from Seiko to Zelos to Oris, but Helm is not for me. I like how maybe there's one um, collection out there or in the future that may interest me. Many people like the Vanuatu. I don't, so that's not my cup of tea. And the Vesuviate, that's the Ativo for me, not the new dual caliber one that I don't that doesn't appeal to me, unfortunately. But that's my taste.